Indianapolis Colts head to SoFi Stadium for a Week 4 matchup where the Rams are trying to get a bounce-back win, and the Colts are trying to prove to the NFL that Daniel Jones and the Colts are for real. That's coming up next on a crossover edition of Locked On Rams and Locked On Colts.
You are Locked On NFL Crossover, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
What is up, Ramley, and what is up, Colts fans? My name is Doug McKain. I cover the Rams for the Locked On Rams Network and Locked On Network. Also, I work for SI Bleach Report in the past 24/7 Sports. I do NFL radio for Westwood One. And, of course, I'm joined by the Locked On Colts host, Jake Arthur. He is the Colts beat writer for the Roundtable Network. You know him, you love him if you're a Colts fan. If you're a Rams fan, this is a great ball knower. He knows not just the Colts, but all around the league, so I can't wait to get into this one, a crossover edition. We're going to get into the key matchups, the big storylines. We're going to find out if this Colts team can come into SoFi Stadium and hand the Rams their second loss of the season. But first, today's episode of Locked On Rams and Locked Over Colts, this crossover edition is presented by PrizePicks. Download the PrizePicks app today and use code LOCKEDONNFL to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. Okay, so Jake, you guys riding high, the surprise team of the NFL, Daniel Jones, the comeback player of the year, showing what life outside of Brian Daboll can do for someone. The Rams are still hurting after a fourth quarter meltdown loss to the reigning Super Bowl champion Philadelphia Eagles. That's the big story in Rams land, is can you bounce back from what has been really the worst regular season loss of the Sean McVay era? But what is the storyline for the Colts heading into this one?
Yeah, I guess we're still just looking to see how valid this team is. You know, they're obviously 3-0. But I do still think there's some people who are waiting to buy in because the wins are against the Dolphins and the Titans. And now the Broncos are 1-2, but I think we can all agree they're a quality team still. But at the end of the day, their 3 wins are against teams that have 1 combined win. So still looking to see if the other shoe is going to drop for the Colts somewhere, because offensively, this thing has been totally well balanced. The offensive line is playing outstanding. Daniel Jones is obviously playing out of his mind. Jonathan Taylor is the league's leading rusher. And then your complement of pass catchers that you have, there's not many holes there. Now, I will say Alec Pierce has a concussion, and his status for this weekend is dicey. So you're kind of waiting to see, is A.D. Mitchell going to step up in his second year? He looks a little more comfortable now than he did last year. But at the same time, he's still very unproven. And then you're kind of looking for a bounce-back performance from Tyler Warren, who seems to be kind of the ultimate X factor for this offense.
Yeah, Tyler Warren, he looks like a stud, a guy who has perennial Pro Bowl, all-pro level talent. We saw that at Penn State, and he just, I mean, you kind of think of Dallas Clark and all those great tight ends for the Colts, and he just fit right in there. But, I mean, the story is Daniel Jones. I mean, it's unbelievable to see the start that he's had. I believe it's 103 points, most ever for the Colts in their first 3 games, have punted just once. You mentioned the complimentary receivers, but what is the biggest difference that you would say so far from Daniel Jones, the Colt, versus Daniel Jones, the New York Giant?
Well, I just think the chemistry between Shane Steichen, the play caller, and Daniel Jones, the quarterback, has been just incredibly noticeable. But at the same time, Daniel has never quite had everything around him working as well as it is right now. Again, it's just a few games, but everyone keeps having to go back to like 2022 with the Giants when he led them to the playoffs then. But, you know, he's getting good protection. But even at the same time, he has been blitzed at a high rate and is escaping those. He's only been sacked twice. Not turned the ball over. The offense has not turned the ball over once so far. So the best answer, honestly, is none of us know. It just seems to be like the match made in heaven. But at the same time, you can see everything around him is working really well. The play calling suits him very well. Shane Steichen's not asking him to move heaven and earth. He's giving him some easy, quick stuff to process and get rid of the ball quickly. But at the same time, Jones is pushing the ball down the field more than he ever has. He's spreading the ball around. He's not just locking in on one guy. And it's like he has turned over a new leaf. Like he seems to be the early new Geno Smith, new Baker Mayfield, new Sam Darnold. He seems to be like that new guy in that next, set of resurgent quarterbacks. So there's a lot of, how is this happening going into it? But at the same time, early returns on this is that everything is going well, not just him.
Yeah, and I think if you're the Rams and you're trying to analyze this game, you're looking, okay, is this a fake 3-0? Is this an artificial early start for Daniel Jones? The truth of the matter is, as you point out, I mean, Jonathan Taylor's someone who could win Offensive Player of the Year. That's how good of a start that he's had. And there's really nothing you can point out when you look at Daniel Jones and say, hey, this isn't real. You mentioned the competition. Yeah, they haven't been being the best teams in the league or anything like that, but that secondary for the Broncos is solid.
Yeah.
It's the NFL, right? I mean, just quality, especially early on in the season. But you look at his overall numbers. I mean, a 0.42 EPA per play, that's first among all quarterbacks. So a 111.7 passer rating. I mean, this is a guy that is third in overall yards. He hasn't turned the ball over. I think when you look at his success versus the blitz with the Colts versus his success versus the blitz with the Giants, it seems like that is the biggest difference. But do you think that that's an area with the pass rush of the Rams that's averaging 4 sacks a game? They're getting a ton of pressure. Is that an area you think the Rams could exploit, is getting to Daniel Jones and trying to force that first turner of the season, some errant throws?
Yeah, because there was a similar conversation against the Broncos, because I believe the Rams and Broncos are tied for the NFL lead in sacks. So kind of thought it was going to be an issue against the Broncos, that pass rush. And they did account for one of those 2 sacks. There's been a couple times early in the year where defenses are just overloading and there's a free blitzer and Jones is just going down because, the play is kind of dead on arrival. So I do think the Rams and their ability to kind of almost be like a hive mind. It's not like, I think they rush very well as a group. Like, of course, Jared Verse is kind of an alpha dog defensive lineman. But overall, when you look at the Rams front, it's very much an attack in general. So I think that being the case could pose some issues for the Colts. Guys definitely have to be on their P's and Q's and pass protection, whether it's the tight ends, the running backs. I definitely think the Rams offer something that even the Broncos quite didn't. Because with the Broncos, you knew you had to key in on Nick Bonito. And, they have Zach Allen and they have some guys there as well. But I think the Rams pass rush is a little deeper, and it seems unlikely that you have matchups against these 2 defenses and neither of them comes up big in the pass rush department. So I would imagine this may be the first game where we see, multiple sacks given up for the Colts.
Yeah, and that's going to be an area where that is the strength for the Rams, is trying to get to the quarterback, trying to cause that pressure. And I think if you're a Rams fan heading into this season, one of the weaknesses last year, especially something that was highlighted in that loss to the Eagles in the division round last year, was their inability to stop the run, to stop premier running back Saquon Barkley. Ran wild against them last year. Last week, the Rams hold him to less than 50 yards, 2.6 yards per carry. What is the biggest key to stopping Jonathan Taylor? He looks like he's as good as ever.
Yeah, no, him individually as a runner, he's been awesome. He's even as a complete running back in pass protection and catching the ball as well. This is really as good as we've ever seen him. And he is making some special things happen, but the run scheme and the blocking has been really good as well. The way that they are getting guys out on the move and just the diversity of the rushing attack that Shane Steichen is pulling on. You saw an old school halfback ISO play that I'm sure a lot of you guys saw, the Jonathan Taylor long touchdown against the Titans last week. Using, guys like Tyler Warren out of the fullback, kind of an offset eye to come up and take out the first blocker in the hole. You're getting really big contributions from Michael Pittman as a blocker on the outside, and Alec Pierce as well. So everyone's kind of buying in at the same time. This has been a very unselfish group right now, and they're really all just totally bought in on this philosophy of every single person. Even if you're not getting the ball in the play, you matter. Your blocking matters. So the offensive line has been tremendous. even though they've worked in a couple new starters with Tanner Bortolini and Matt Gonsalves. I think the way that Shane Steichen is spreading out defenses while also kind of nothing about this rushing attack is static, really. Everything is very mobile. There's a lot of moving parts to it. So I think that kind of keeps defenses on their toes. But that was one of the biggest questions I had, like with the Rams, because they did have issues stopping the run last year, but it seems like they've been much better this year. So I've been a little curious if that front seven could maybe be the first ones to kind of put the brakes on Taylor this year.
Yeah, certainly the addition of Poona Ford has been big. The emergence of better linebacker play, Nate Landman, has been a massive addition, and certainly they're going to try to make sure that for the second week in a row they neutralize another big-time running back, and Jonathan Taylor certainly is a game breaker, a game changer, and that's going to be a tough task for them. I do think one of the big matchups is going to be the cornerbacks for both teams. Can you win that war? Can you match up Puka Nacua and Devontae Adams away from Chardavius Ward in the cornerback 2 position for the Colts? I want to get into next. And also, the Rams have some questions for their own cornerback. So we're going to get to that next on a crossover edition of Locked On Rams and Locked On Colts. The NFL season is here, and FanDuel is making sure you're ready for kickoff with a can't-miss offer. Right now, new customers can bet just $5, and if your bet wins, you'll get $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. I love FanDuel. I've used it for a long time. I love using FanDuel because it fits however you like to bet. Player props, building a same-game parlay, or just even jumping in live as the action unfolds. It makes every game more exciting, whether you're watching your team or just keeping an eye on your fantasy lineup. This game, you got the Rams 3.5-point favorites against the Colts at SoFi Stadium. And it's quick, it's easy, and the best way to add a little more energy to Sundays. So you ready to play? Download the FanDuel app now by visiting FanDuel.com to get started. That's FanDuel.com to place your first $5 bet. When you think game day, you might not think Wayfair, but you should, because Wayfair is the best kept secret for incredible and affordable game day finds. Wayfair has everything you need to get your space ready for the season, whether you're tailgating outdoors or cheering from your living room. I love Wayfair. It's a great place to go. I picked up an awesome grill there, a cooler, a recliner. My wife's all about Wayfair. You get great stuff for a great price, got great finds, and it's completely leveled up my game day setup. And what I love about my cooler is it's awesome. I mean, you can just use it for so many different ways. You can take it to tailgates. You can use it at the house. It's great stuff. And the best thing, too, delivery was free, fast. It was hassle-free, which is a lifesaver when you need something in time for kickoff. From outdoor essentials like folding chairs and patio heaters to indoor must-haves like TV stands and serveware, Wayfair has it all in one place. Wayfair is your trusted destination for all things game day, from coolers and grills to recliners to slow cookers. Shop, save, and score today at Wayfair.com. That's Wayfair.com. Wayfair, every style, every home. And we are off and running here on this crossover edition of Locked On Rams and Locked On Colts. Big shout out to those everyday listeners out there watching and listening to every single episode of Locked On Rams and Locked On Colts. Lots of new viewers, lots of new listeners this time of year. So if you are new, join that Everyday Listeners Club. That's where you watch and listen to every single episode we drop Monday through Friday, YouTube or the podcast. And then you won't miss a thing about your favorite football team. All right, Jake. So here in our second segment, we're going to take a look at some of these key matchups. And I'm looking at that cornerback spot. I mean, you look at the Colts, see a lot of zone. You see Chardavius Ward, Puka Nacua really establishing himself as an elite reliever. I mean, he's gone from a guy that's this great hidden gem 5th-round pick to now this guy's legitimately a top 10 receiver, and it looks like that's an area that you can exploit against a Colts team that still looks like they're running a good amount of zone.
Yeah, so this has been a little bit of a Jekyll and Hyde situation for the Colts secondary. Ward did have to miss week 2 against the Broncos, and that really exposed Xavier Howard and his inability to just run with younger, faster receivers. But Ward is back now. I'm curious what they're going to do, because Lou Anarumo does have intentions of putting Ward on top receivers and shadowing them and going all over. but not every team has Devontae Adams and Puka Nacua situation to choose from. So do they shadow Ward on Nacua because Kenny Moore is probably going to be out in the slot? That's one way they could go about it. They could, plop him on Devontae Adams. Really not sure what they're going to do with him quite yet. That's definitely one area I'm a little bit concerned about because Howard could probably do fine against a guy like Adams. A couple vets who their athleticism is just not really their defining trait. Both of those guys kind of win with their mind a little bit. And then especially with Adams, just an incredible, precise route runner. I think it's probably a little better matchup for Howard than he would be if he was going against Nacua. I think he might be a little overmatched there where Ward matches up really well. But then Mekhi Blackmon is probably who you're going to see in the slot for the Colts primarily if Kenny Moore is indeed out, which Kenny has all but been ruled out. We're talking, is he going to land on IR at this point, which they say no. But yeah, the cornerback situation for the Colts is a little sticky. They just brought in Mike Hilton, Lou Anarumo's longtime nickel there from Cincinnati this week. They say maybe he can play this week. He said today that he thinks he could play this week. But still, I think they maybe give it a week to put much on his plate. But yeah, the cornerback situation going against a team where you kind of have to pick your poison against Nacua and Adams is probably the stickiest situation for the Colts this week.
Yeah, absolutely. I think you look at Matthew Stafford, who did not have a great game against the Eagles, sub 200 yards passing. He missed some big throws, some big third down throws that really would have really put the Rams over the top and probably led to a blowout win if he executed those throws in the first half. He feels like he's going to have more time to throw. I mean, this is not the vaunted pass rush that we saw from the Eagles, even the Titans, even the Texans. And you've seen the Colts struggle. I think they're fourth to last for pass rush win rate heading into this one. So the Rams offensive line has not been good though. So it's two weaknesses going up against each other, and which weakness I think is going to have the advantage is really going to be dependent on how well Matthew Stafford plays in this one. And he's had a lot of success against the Colts when he's played him throughout his career. And he's someone that it's been well documented dealing with that back injury. We saw him grab it a couple times during last week's loss to the Eagles. So I think for Rams fans, you just want to get that feel good, get right Matthew Stafford game where he's pushing the ball down the field, continue to develop chemistry with Devontae Adams. And the efficiency really hasn't been there with Devontae. I mean, you're talking about someone that's really less than 40% the contested catches, and they've been kind of forcing him the football. And we know if it's man coverage, Devontae, I think, is going to need the line share. Zone, you're going to see Puka Nacua. But I think where the Colts really, the wild card, at least for the Rams, is if Daniel Jones in this offense picks up where they've left off all season long, and they take advantage of this secondary that really got torched by Jalen Hurts late in that one. They gave up 3 touchdowns. Akella Witherspoon, he broke his clavicle a few weeks ago. He's going to be out for 12 weeks. Emmanuel Forbes is still a developmental project. Darius Williams a little undersized. So that is the area where I think if you're a Rams fan, you're concerned. Because like you said, it's not that the Colts have these premier like Justin Jefferson, Jamar Chase type receivers, but they have guys that can get it done with a really hot quarterback in Daniel Jones right now.
Yeah, without question. Michael Pittman Jr. Seems like he is totally back from a back injury that kind of plagued him last year. He's back to leading the Colts in every receiving category. Again, Tyler Warren is someone you could put on just about anyone and find some success. A.D. Mitchell, very big X factor this week, though. I kind of mentioned there at the top. Assuming Alec Pierce doesn't play this week with a concussion, it's his third documented concussion in the NFL. He also had one late last year. So if they're playing it safe, I'm going to imagine he doesn't play. But again, A.D. Mitchell, talent-wise, has the ability to be the Colts' best receiver. He just hasn't put it all together yet. But at the same time, he's like 4th on the depth chart as receiver because they do have a good group of guys. So this is really his first extensive experience this year being a featured piece of the offense, if that is how it develops. But yeah, it's really interesting because for some reason, teams haven't really been selling out to stop Taylor. It's like they've been prepared for the passing game. Like last week, for example, he only faced a loaded box 5.8% of the time and made the Titans pay with 3 touchdowns and over 100 yards. But he hasn't been one of these running backs that's faced like a 40% loaded box throughout the game or anything like that. So that's interesting. Teams are kind of preparing for Jones to spread the ball against them and everything. And I think this is a matchup where they could do that as long as they keep the pass rush for the Rams at bay. They definitely have the size advantage when it comes to receivers versus defensive backs. I know some guys have been banged up there as well. Even the safeties, it looks like, Cameron Kinchins is kind of dealing with a little something as well. So, the receivers are good, but I keep coming back to this probably being a big, big performance for Tyler Warren. I think they need to do it. Like I'm talking 8-9 balls to him. Like I think that is a recipe where you just have an advantage against most teams with a guy like Warren. But in this matchup, I think he could bail you out of some situations.
To have a tight end and to use your tight end. Rams fans want
been
that.
A while.
I mean, it's they went out there and they take Terrence Ferguson out of Oregon, and they say after that, even if they kept that first round pick that they ultimately traded to the Falcons, that they would have taken him at 26. Yet he had a groin injury during preseason and training camp, and he just has been not utilized. And they don't really have that stretch, that flexy tight end. I mean, we saw one play in the preseason where he had a nice stretch play down the seam, back shoulder fade, and they're really behind in his development. It seems like Tyler Warren is like they plug him in, he plays, and he's playing at an elite level, it feels like.
Yeah, both as a receiver and a blocker. He's been, I don't want to say a pleasant surprise because that's what a lot of people envision for him in the NFL. But for a rookie tight end to not really have much waiting time for him to be impactful has been great because the Colts have gotten like nothing from the tight end position essentially since Jack Doyle retired several years ago. They've tried to make Mo Alley-Cox be the guy. They've brought in some other guys here or there. There was the year with Eric Ebron, but it's pretty evident one of the biggest missing pieces of this offense has been just a tight end in general. But they got a super versatile tight end who is doing such unique things in the way he is getting open from the alignment where he's at. Like they ran this fullback sail route a couple weeks ago where he's lined up as the fullback in the offset eye and winds up getting like a 40-yard completion off of it based on this, huge corner route that he runs down the field. And Shane Steichen is having a blast with Warren as his tight end right now. And a little bit slower of a week last week. He played through a toe injury, but he's not on the injury report this week. So we'll see if he bounces back a little bit.
Yeah, on the Rams end, it's a lot of frustration with lack of creativity. I mean, there's last week when, look, Sean McVay's criticized for being too conservative. He had a third one. He throws a streak, a go ball to Devontae Adams. The next play, you run right to the right side, right behind Bo Limmert, who, by the way, you had the same PFF blocking grade as he did last week, 0.00. And you run Kyren Williams right between the tackle and the guard, and you get stuffed. So, yeah, I mean, that's something that I think you're hoping to see this game from the Rams, too, is take advantage of whoever Tre'Davious Ward isn't guarding. I mean, whether it be Hilton Howard, whoever it may be, and you got two really good receivers and using some of those schemes that they've been really effective with his first couple of games and just letting Matthew Stafford be Matthew Stafford once again. So it's going to be really interesting to see what happens on Sunday and if this Colts team really makes a bold statement. Because let's be honest, I mean, the Colts win this one. This is no fluke. I mean, this is a legitimate. I think they already are legitimate, to be honest, with the talent that they do have. And Daniel Jones is freed from the Giants, and he looks like he's just ready to prove to everyone out there that he is this quarterback that was pick number 6 and was supposed to be a really good QB throughout his career. So lots to be gained, lots to be lost on Sunday. We're going to talk next. I don't know if you want to throw out a prediction. Might be too early for that, but some more factors heading into this one. That's coming up next on this crossover edition of Locked On Rams and Locked On Colts. And a reminder that today's episode of Locked On Rams and Locked On Colts is brought to you by Gametime. The NFL season is back, and honestly, there's nothing better than being in the stadium surrounded by fans cheering on your team. But let's be honest, getting tickets can be a hassle. Betting queues and between queues and login screens and prices jumping at the checkout. It's frustrating. That's why I use Gametime, the app that gives the advantage back to fans. Gametime is fast, easy, and backed by the Gametime guarantee. You'll always get 100% authentic tickets delivered on time and at the best price. Plus, all fees are included, so the price you see is the price you pay. I pulled up Gametime in just a couple taps. I saw amazing the deals were. I'm talking about your favorite NFL games as low as $100. So you can go to SoFi and watch the Colts versus the Rams this Sunday. I love the app because it's super simple. You get the exact view from the seats you're going to buy before buying. You got the zone deals where you pick the section and Gametime picks the seats and you save big. It's awesome. It's faster and cheaper than the other apps too. So download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, that's promo code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off. Swipe, tap, ticket, go. Download the Gametime app today. And welcome back to this crossover edition of Locked On Rams and Locked On Colts. Okay, so you're going to be at the game, right? I believe?
No, I'm not traveling to LA this one.
Hey, look, there's nothing better than, I got my cooler from Wayfair, right? I mean, it's nothing better than being on the couch, red zoning it, or actually, I think red zone's a little for amateurs, right? You got to get the YouTube NFL Sunday ticket, all the games on the quad screens. But yeah, I mean, what do you think this game, does it feel like the Colts are playing with house money in this one? Because it feels like the Rams, if they lose this game, you got Baltimore and San Francisco, you're going to London, and all of a sudden you're in a position where are you going to have to try to climb out of the holes that they've had to climb out of for the past two seasons? 3-1 sounds a lot better than 2-2. And for the Colts, I mean, at 4-0, you come to LA, beat this Rams team that kind of has been a little bit of a sexy pick to win the division and be a Super Bowl contender. What do you think this game would mean to the Colts?
Yeah, I do think this is a toss-up. I easily see an avenue for either team to win. But right now, I think the Colts are totally bought in. You know, it's taken Shane Steichen a few years to really deliver the message and get the return on it with the right players and coaches around him. And it seems like it's finally sunken in. And some of the areas they're strongest at are hallmarks of good teams, especially offensive line play, quarterback play. I do have concerns about the pass rush and, you know, the run defense. We'll see. You know, I know those are areas that the Rams might be able to exploit. Especially the power run game. Like teams that want to commit to the run, I think will be able to have success against the Colts. It just hasn't really been the recipe in these first few weeks for their opponents. Two of them were blowouts, and those teams weren't able to establish the run against the Colts at all. But I'm very curious about this one. I think it's going to be very, very close. I do like the Colts' advantages in the passing game. Again, I think Tyler Warren's going to be a pretty big X factor. I got to imagine the Rams are going to try and sell out to stop Jonathan Taylor, in which we've seen, obviously, the Colts have had a lot of success through the air. Jones is completing 70%, over a 9.0 yards per attempt, 100 passer rating each week. So, like, he's balling. Defensively, I'm very curious, again, how I mentioned the cornerbacks are going to match up with these receivers, because these receivers can give it to anybody, really. But does Lou Anarumo rely more on attempting to muddy the waters for Stafford and kind of throw off his timing a little bit? Because that's what he did to Tua, because Tua is obviously a very timing, precision-based passer who throws to spots. And everything, they were just able to muddy the waters so much for him and confuse him a bit. I don't think they'll necessarily confuse Stafford, but they'll probably attempt to delay him a little bit and make him think about things a little harder, which, you know, when you've got a guy that gets rid of the ball as quickly as he does, I think that's really the only way to counter that and get a pass rush. And they know that. So I've picked the Colts so far in each game to win. So I think I'm going to keep it up here. I think they're going to win a close one. Again, it could just as easily be the Rams, but I don't have a reason to say the Colts don't win, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not gonna lie. Before watching, I watched the last two Colts games the last couple of nights, and I thought, okay, it's Cinderella turning into a pumpkin, right? And it does feel like that's something that could happen sooner than later down the line. But I mean, this team has legitimate talent. They have really good coaching, and you have really good addition in Tyler Warren. I mean, the pass rush definitely is a concern. The secondary, I think, can be exploited by a really good quarterback and Matthew Stafford with really good receivers. I just look at this Rams defense, and if you're getting pressure with your front four, you're playing gap and a half, and you're sounding your gap control, and you can find some way to not stop, but just limit the big plays with Jonathan Taylor, then you give your secondary a breather a little bit. But to say that I'm not concerned about the Rams secondary when their game plan, it materialized. You turned Jalen Hurts into a passer, and he beat you as a passer. And Daniel Jones is a more gifted passer than Jalen Hurts. So I wake up at 3:30 in the morning, a cold sweat, thinking of this Rams secondary. It definitely gives me concern. I think that this is going to be the best Matthew Stafford game of the year just because he's getting it out quicker than ever. He hopefully, even though the Rams offensive line has been the second worst in pass pro this year, he's going to hopefully have more time to throw. The Rams have found a two-headed monster running game with Kyren Williams and Blake Corum, and they realize what's at stake. Like I said, this is a team that they don't look. If you're the Colts, you're like, holy crap! Like we got this window now with Steichen and young pieces and things like that. A future in Indy. The Rams are like, hey, this is all in, man. Like this is this year and maybe next year's tops with Matthew Stafford, and you can't drop a game to a Colts team after having a heartbreak loss. That would just totally change the tenor and the mood of the season. So I think you have to find a way to win this one. I think you're going to see a nice offensive output. And wow, what do you know? Rams guy picks Rams, Colts guy picks Colts. What do you know, right? I mean, but that's kind of how this one is ending. But this is let's be honest, like. That's why, like, all these, like, oh, the schedule release show, Jake. Oh, the June schedule. Let's go game by game prediction. Like, all that is just, it's fun, but it's like, it's trying to, like, do like a March Madness bracket, right? Mm-hmm. It really means next to nothing, right? I mean, this Colts team is better than anyone could have predicted.
Yeah, I would agree. You know, but at the beginning of the season, before anything started, I said their window was probably like 7 to 10 to 10 and 7 max. Like if you're being really optimistic, and they're already at 3 wins, and then you look at their schedule and it's like, this team is capable of 11 or 12 wins, maybe, which seems crazy to think again back in June. But yeah, when things are clicking like they are right now, I mean, yes, part of you is just waiting for the other shoe to drop, but offensively, at least you're looking at it and you're like, there's been no weak points so far to this offense, especially when you're getting the quarterback play that you're getting and the run game that you're getting and the coaching. It's like, it's probably not sustainable to average 34 points and over 400 yards a game throughout the year, but like some of this is going to keep up at a high level. You got to imagine.
I totally agree. It's a tough test for this Rams defense, and it's going to be a test for this Colts offense to come out west and continue for what they've done. But it's going to be a really good one. We're going to break it down on the squad show right after the game for the postcast, and definitely go, hey, even if you're not a Colts fan, this guy knows ball. You want to probably listen to what he has to say about his team. If you want to do further recon for Sunday, I don't know about you, Jake, but every time we have a squad show, it's like half the chat is the opposing team's fans trying to like take these victory laps. It gets toxic and you love it, but I'm sure you'll be seeing Rams fans over there as well. So definitely go follow my man Jake Arthur. Go read his stuff and subscribe to his podcast as well. My name is Doug McKain. You can follow me on X and Instagram at DMAC_LA. And until next time, whose house? It's Locked On Rams house, and it's Locked On Colts.